All right. Well, if everyone's ready to get started, we will go ahead and jump into this. Can I have a quick sound check for folks online? Are you able to hear me okay? Do you want to give me a thumbs up? Thank you, Mike. Appreciate that. All right, thank you. Okay, well, good afternoon, everybody. Just to make sure everyone knows where they are, we're here for the Water Use Advisory Council meeting. Thanks, everyone, for coming in. It looks like we do have a quorum today, so we're going to go ahead and go through our full agenda. My name is Laura Campbell with Michigan Farm Bureau. I serve as one of your co-chairs for this council. And what we'll do for, we have the recording for folks' names who are online. Any phone numbers that we need to identify? Anybody? Doesn't look like it. Okay, sounds good. Well, we've got the recording for names of folks who are online. But we'll go around the room and ask everyone to identify themselves so that folks participating remotely know who all's here. And I will roll around, let's see, to my right. We'll start with Brian, then we'll go around the table and then we'll hit back around.
Hi, Brian Burrows with Michigan Trout Unlimited.
Sydney Rahala with Eagle.
Tim Mellon, Eagle, GRMD.
Hamilton, retired from the Michigan Service. Simon DeLeo with Eagle Office of Great Lakes.
Sarah Pearson, Michigan Geological Survey. Megan Napier, AKT.
I'm Dick Norton. I'm here representing local government.
Dave Ventura, Michigan Lakes and Streams Association.
Matt Staskevich, American Water Works Association.
All right, we'll go back.
Hi, Janelle Black.
Mike Jubal, Eagle.
Claire Rose, Senior Geologist, Water Use Advisory, Water Use Association Unit. Just started eating yesterday.
Yeah.
Andy Laverne.
Hi, Cameron, Eagle. Great. Anybody I missed? Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Since we do have quorum today, we will go ahead and ask for any amendments, edits, changes needed to our minutes from our previous meeting in, help me out here, August, we were last together. Don't forget, if you are trying to speak up from online, to unmute yourself so that we know that you're talking. All right, hearing and seeing none, I will take that as consensus on the minutes. I'm now going to ask for approval of today's agenda, and hopefully you received that by email or we're able to access it from the Water Use Advisory Council website. Any amendments needed to the agenda? Okay, hearing and seeing none, we will go ahead and jump on in here. Thank you. I'm sorry, Dave.
Yeah, question. There was a presentation we talked about. Is that the presentation right in the shoot? Thank you.
We're good?
We're good.
Okay. We typically do 2 public comment periods. The first one we like to reserve for agenda items for today's meeting. We will have another one at the end for folks to bring up kind of anything water related that they would like to. But at this time, is there any public comment on agenda related items? Hearing and seeing none, we'll go ahead and keep moving on our agenda. And at this point, we're going to do some updates from the Great Lakes Compact Council. And Simon, is that the part that you're leading?
Yes.
All right.
Who's got control of the slide?
That's Jim.
Thank
Yep.
you, Jim. All right, thank you, Laura. My name is Simon DeLeo. I work for the Office of the Great Lakes at Eagle, and I've been asked to provide an update on activities with the Great Lakes Compact.
Can you pause 1 second and make sure that sharing my screen with the audience, virtual audience?
Great Lakes Regional Body Compact Council update. Can somebody online confirm for me?
Yes, this is
Yep.
Frank. We see it.
Hey, Frank, thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, Simon, you're good.
All right, thank you. Just a little bit of background for those of you who don't work with that document every day. The Great Lakes Compact is a formal agreement between the 8 Great Lakes states to cooperatively manage and protect water resources. And there's a sister agreement that with the provinces of Ontario and Quebec as well to bring that management to the entire region. The compact has a council. There you go. I don't know what people can see, so I'm stopping until we get information. You can suggest what I'm supposed to be talking about.
Sorry.
I can't.
I don't have it on their screen.
We good? Okay, so the compact has a council that's made up of designees from all the states, and that council meets regularly to discuss items that are addressed in the compact. And our designee is Emily Finnell, who's my supervisor, who is not available today. And we also, the compact council also has a science team where we work with Jim and Pappas and a lot of other folks that help us really work on the more technical aspects of the compact. I'm more of a policy person, so I really appreciate having that help from other divisions and other state agencies. So the compact has several requirements when there are proposals for water withdrawals that are brought to each of the states. And one of those, to nobody's surprise, is the amount of water you want to take out. So when the state receives such a withdrawal proposal, then it is within the Great Lakes Basin. We're not talking about a diversion at this point out of the basin. We're talking about water that comes out of the lake and stays in the Great Lakes region. And then when one of those requests is 5 million gallons a day or more, the compact said that each state that receives that must send what we call a prior notice to the other states in the compact. Like, hey, we've got essentially a large consumptive use request coming our way. Will you help us review it? And that's what we have one right now. And that's why I'm talking about the prior notice. It's a little less well-known than the diversion requests, which have happened more in the past. If you remember Waukesha in 2012, a lot of people remember that one. This one is a little different because it is not a diversion. But we do have an opportunity to review that proposal and to help the host state make sure that they reviewed everything and share our expertise with them. And the reason why I'm talking about the prior notice is because we have one in front of us right now as the 10 jurisdictions, including Ontario and Quebec here. If you could go to the next slide. No, sorry. You got it in the right place. So the application we have in front of us is from Onondaga County in New York. It's not part of Syracuse. They're requesting an increase in their raw water capacity. And you can see there's a significant increase in consumptive use. And that request is mostly needed to support the development of a microchips plant in the town of Clay, New York. And so the water authority has sent their request to the state of New York for basically a water use permit. With a little map here so that everybody knows where Oswego, New York is where the water withdrawal would happen out of the existing water system there that serves the Onondaga County Water Authority. And then request I said is for Lake Ontario water. So what we're doing right now is with OGL and GRMD are working together to review the proposal to see if we are going to provide formal comments or any questions. The prior notice process is to look at the proposal, make sure it responds to what's called the decision-making standard. That's Compact Section 4.11, if you feel like looking that up. And that standard is written to ensure that this request respects local law, does not create cumulative impacts, that it includes water conservation measures and a lot of other things that have to do really with the water quantity and how the withdrawal is done and how the water you return to the watershed afterwards. So at this point, we're working together to meet. We're going to meet probably next week when Emily's back to discuss where we are and decide what we're doing. So that's kind of the update on that project that I wanted to bring to the Water Use Council.
If comments are due by October 27th, I believe.
That's correct.
The microchip, why does that use so much water?
I'm not an expert in how these things are made, but it's part of the manufacturing process. Probably cooling.
Could I ask, is the water going to be returned to the basin or is it coming out?
So the consumptive use makes it not going back, but a lot of the water that they're taking is going back.
I'm trying to figure out how it's being used.
Evaporation. Yes, we don't have control once it gets evaporated.
Got a question online?
Yeah, this is Helena Volzer with Alliance for the Great Lakes. Do you have details on the amount of consumptive use on this proposal is the first question. Second question, how did this prior notice provision come to you? Has the proposal already gone to apply for a consumptive use permit through the state of New York?
First question, if I heard well, there's the documents are public. They're on the New York State DEC website. I don't know exactly the link off the top of my head. And when the application goes to the state, because of the consumptive use reaching the threshold for prior notice, that's when we receive, as compact states, we receive the application.
I think one of the previous slides had the MVD.
Yes, I don't
Yeah.
know numbers.
Yeah, so total capacity increase for the water supply system from 62.5 MGD to 93.5 MGD, and consumptive use increased from 6.25 MGD to 17.5 MGD. MGD being million gallons per day.
Michigan, we're still working on it. We're not sure at this point. Using the standard review and the expertise we have.
That's pretty high consumptive.
Yeah.
Gonna be seeing more of these.
This is different than the data centers, right? I mean, this is manufacturing and shit.
Right.
So that reason, it's going from a 10% consumptive use to about an 18%, 19%.
Whatever, so you just subtract the difference.
Yeah.
So it's about a third of the increase.
It's all right.
But Pat, you're right.
Yeah. Because the compact does have allowances for that, growth and residential population and other things like that. So the rub here is maybe that increase in consumptive use, correct?
Well, it's only the threshold that is triggered.
Right.
Any further comments or questions online before we move on? I forgot to check. Sorry, guys.
Now, this is Hank Edwagishik.
Right.
Yes, can everybody hear me? I want to be sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I guess what I'm wondering is that with this particular application, are there implications about how this might be precedent setting in other cases? For instance, in other lakes with withdrawals? I just wanted to know, Simon, what your thoughts were on that.
every decision that the Compact Council takes has some form of precedent setting, but they're also different, depending on where the water's coming from, where it's going back, and consumptive use as well. So yes, but I wouldn't say that it is a sweeping approval for everything else that comes after.
Thank you.
One last clarifying question for you. So you got a prior notice on this one, and you have, the department has to give some comments. Is this a prior notice process, just a very beginning of it, and then there'll be another official like opportunity for the other comments later, or is this sort of the one and only opportunity for the state of Michigan to provide comment?
I think it depends a little bit on what the states and provinces will return as comments to New York State, what they will decide to do, but it is potentially.
Other questions? Thanks for giving us an update on that. We'll stay tuned.
Yes.
And we're gonna switch things over to you.
Yep.
With our committee chairs.
Sounds good. So the first up, Kelly, if you're online, you can take yourself off and mute. We're gonna have the Conservation and Efficiency Committee both give its report and invite its special guest presenters to do that. And you can do that in whichever order you please.
All right. Well, I think we'll quickly go through our committee report because I'm making it short so that we have plenty of time for our guest speakers today. Our committee met October 2nd. We actually had the presentation from Angie and Brendan that you guys are going to have today, where they really kind of took a look at the work that they've done that was funded by the 2020 council recommendations. It's really incredible to think back and go, okay, stuff that happened, the work we did 5 years ago today, we're able to see the report of what the first year of actual boots on the ground it has been able to provide. So we're pretty excited for them to give you guys the presentation today that talks about, how much outreach to producers regarding irrigation they've been able to do, all of the great work that they're doing in the needs assessment they've conducted. I'm not going to steal any of their thunder with that, but we're excited to have them today. I think that we have another slide. So if you guys want to move to the next slide. That might be a little far. Yes. Our committee is going to be reviewing the State Water Conservation and Efficiency Program annual assessment. So that is a requirement of the Great Lakes Compact. And I believe that Simon is kind of heading that up. We are also, you guys had the Alliance for Water Efficiencies report. I believe at the last meeting, they gave a presentation. We're actually going to take that final report that they're giving. And at our December meeting, we're going to kind of work through that to see if there are pieces that we can pull out of that report that we'd want to turn into recommendations for the 2026 council report to go in. So we're taking the actual work that was done this last year and analyzing it and seeing, like, are there recommendations or anything we can pull out of all of that work that we need to elevate and move forward in the next full council's report. So that's basically what we're working on. I don't know if anyone has questions about that stuff before I introduce our guest speakers.
Questions?
Nothing online.
What's the timeline for the program annual assessment?
I'm going to defer to Simon on that one.
Yep, thank you. That is a return, and this is the annual assessment has nothing to do with what I was just talking about. It's completely different process that we do every year. We had a 5-year review last year, maybe you remember that one. But this one gets returned to Compact Council Secretariat just before Thanksgiving. The last thing I do before I go on Thanksgiving.
Thank you. I think that's it, Kelly. You can introduce the guest speakers today if you want.
All right. So, gosh, it's been a year ago that MSU and MDART and Eagle worked to get 2 irrigation specialists hired at MSU. And today I saw them both on here. I see Brendan's face. So, Brendan Kelly and Angie Menjivar are the 2 irrigation specialists. And I'm just going to turn it over to them because they're going to do a fantastic job. So we're excited for them to showcase what they've been doing the last year. Brendan, I think you're muted though.
Thanks, Kelly. Today we'll be presenting a little bit of an update on our work as water use efficiency educators with Michigan State University. Yeah, there you go. Next slide, please. So I'm Brendan Kelly. I work out of Ludington, Michigan, Mason County, not to be confused with Mason, Michigan, near the center of the state. I graduated in 2024 from Michigan State University with my master's in biosystems and agricultural engineering. I work primarily with fruit and vegetable crops, and I specialize in drip irrigation. Although center pivots, hard set, and sprinklers are still fair game, there's nothing that says I can't work with producers on maximizing efficiencies with those. I work primarily in western and northern Michigan. Those are pretty soft boundaries. I go all over the state, and I'd be glad to continue working on this. Next slide, please.
I'm Andrew Gradius Menjivar. I'm also a water use efficiency educator. And to give you a little bit of background about me, I was born and raised in Honduras, where I did my bachelor's in environmental science and development. And then about 5 years ago, I moved to the US to start an internship in irrigation management on the Western Nebraska. And then I transitioned into my master's to continue more of that work. So it was really easy for me to transition to this position and continue working on water productivity and efficiency, meaning more crop per drop. And I'm based out of Branch County office in Southwest Michigan, but as Brendan said, we pretty much do cover the whole state. And my focus mainly is on field crop production, but Brendan and I work together on all crops. Next slide, please. A lot of our work is as a team. So the MSU Extension Irrigation team, it's comprised by 4 members. Dr. Jan Sagdan, he's the irrigation specialist. Lyndon Kelly, the water management and irrigation extension educator. And us 2, Brendan and myself, the new water use efficiency extension educators. Next slide, please.
One of the things we've been working on is updating our resources on the MSU Extension Irrigation website. This is essentially a one-stop shop for all the things we've been working on as far as hard resources. You can see it ranges from everything from water policy to specific irrigation practices and commodities. If you'd like to see more on this, scan the QR code or see the link. And as a note, we will be sharing this presentation, so if you want to go back and get any of these resources or see what we've been doing, feel free to do that later. Next slide, please.
Okay, well, to understand the needs of our stakeholders, we have developed and launched the Agricultural Water Use Needs Assessment. So this is a survey that we have been collecting on different meetings, events, newsletters, well, many other ones. So it is important to note that these are just the preliminary results. And we have collected so far 76 responses, from which 66% are from Michigan and 24% are from Indiana. The reason that we have a lot of people from Indiana responding to our survey is because on the irrigation meetings, we have the Michiana Irrigation Association annual meeting and also the Michiana Irrigated Corn and Soybeans. So when we do the survey on the meetings, we have a lot of respondents from Indiana as well. A little bit from Ohio and Wisconsin as well. And 4%, they are Minnesota, Illinois, and Nebraska, because we also collected data on the Great Lakes Expo, so that helped us to increase our respondents. So according to the responses by county, we had a really high respondent rate from St. Joseph and Van Buren County. And also we are starting to get more information from other counties on the east side as well. And according to our survey, well, the graphs are a little bit different, but full-time farmers are the highly respondents of the survey. And we collected data from other agencies, consultants as well, and others such as researchers from MSU. From the survey, we collected data from around 60,000 acres, from which they are separated into least irrigated land and also unirrigated land. And we asked them, what is your irrigation type? And we have approximately 40,000 acres of center pivots that people responded from, with a little bit of big gun and trickle. Next slide, please. So we asked them, okay, what should we be focusing on according to different irrigation topics? And we say that they wanted to learn more about center pivot irrigation as expected, and also trickle or drip irrigation. It has been gaining a lot of interest, as well as micro sprinklers and subsurface irrigation. There is some interest in learning more about some of the practices to increase water use efficiency, and the first one is uniformity testing. And also we got a lot of interest on sensing, either soil moisture sensing, remote sensing, plant sensing. Variable rate irrigation has gaining a lot of attention as well, and irrigation scheduling as always. So according to their level of concern on different water issues, the first one is to increase the water use efficiency, and the second one is to expand the use of irrigation. I think the titles cannot be seen in here, but I guess the second one is what is the level of concern on different agricultural water uses, and water quantity was their highest level of concern, with least concern on climate variability as well. Next slide, please.
Can I ask a question on that?
Go ahead.
On the last graph you're just talking about, I'm having a hard time understanding it. It looks like it's different concerns, which I didn't quite catch what they were, but they look almost equal. There's very little differentiation between those. Could you comment on that?
Yes. Thanks for your question. Well, I think because of the presentation, you can barely tell the differences, but on our side, there is quite a bit of difference on those, but not too much. It's approximately, we asked them to rank what is their level of concern on the different issues, and let's say water quantity had approximately like 200 points, or like the rank totals, and climate variability was around like 150. So you can really tell the differences according to their responses. But for example, water quantity and nutrient management, which is the second one, there's barely any difference. Next slide, please. Yeah, thank you, Janine. Yeah, some of the text you can barely see it, but we will share the presentation afterwards so you can notice the differences. So more of the preliminary results, we asked them, what is your preferred source of information? Because one thing, we have the topics, but also how are we going to deliver this information? It is really great to see that MSU Extension is their preferred source of information, and also irrigation dealerships and agribusiness representatives as well. Company representatives and conservation districts seems to be also their preferred source of information, and crop consultants. What is the preference to receive information according to the responses is live meetings. Also, some of the online meetings, they were not too much interested on receiving some information on that, but also personal visits seems to be also interest for them. We asked an open-ended question on what is your biggest educational need for agricultural water use, and a highly repeated answer was irrigation scheduling, when and how much to apply. Also, it seems to be that they want more independence and more remote controlling. So automation, monitors, and control training seems to be one of their biggest educational needs as well. Strip irrigation system design and management, as I said before, a lot of attention has been gathering around that topic, fumigation and fertigation, and specialty crop production, and also regulatory compliance, like we know its importance, and irrigation, cost-effective educational programs. Next slide, please.
Part of our roles within MSU Extension is to serve a variety of groups within AABI, or Agricultural and Agribusiness Management. Sorry about the fumble. It's a bit of a mouthful. We serve on several different teams: the field crops team, fruit, vegetable, irrigation, and agriculture and the environment teams. These teams allow us to communicate more effectively with growers via other educators that are based around the state and work on a variety of different issues, problems, and crops. This really expands our reach and allows us to reach people that really wouldn't have come in contact or had the question to ask of us otherwise. Kind of allows us to relay through some other resources. We also work on some Wicked Problems groups. The Wicked Problems groups are teams within AABI that work on issues which we have deemed to be too large or complex to deal with as a single person. We primarily focus on the water quality group, or quantity group, sorry. There's also the quality group, water quality, and energy and climate groups. These are all focuses which we try to help conserve resources via our work with water use efficiency, irrigation, and water in general. We're also affiliated with the Michiana Irrigation Association, which you may have heard a little bit about. This is a group based in Southwest Michigan and Northern Indiana that focuses pretty much solely on irrigation of a variety of crops, mostly with row crops, potatoes, soybeans, corn, and whatnot, but in general, it brings the group together from that area. So we like to do quite a bit with them. We're also both members of ASABE, or the American Society of Agricultural and Biological Engineers. This is an association, global association, I should say, that gets together at least once a year to discuss problems and kind of what we've been seeing, as well as demonstrate the research and work we've been doing. Next slide, please. We've hosted a couple events in this year, the West Central Irrigation Day and the Summer Irrigation Workshop at KVS. Both of these were first-time events and fairly well attended for first-time events. You can see they both made an impact of $6,000 to $7,000 acres, respectively, and had a total earnings and savings of potential earnings or savings of $60,000 in sum. Next slide, please. A lot of our work is done via presentations and demonstrations. As you can see, once again, it's a very broad group of topics which we've been working towards. We try to spread this out throughout the state and not work solely in one part or on one topic. You can see we've been to potato meetings, blueberry meetings, done some podcast webinars. We try to really diversify things so we're reaching as many people as possible. In total, we made 42 presentations, which reached over 2,000 participants. Next slide, please. In addition to presentations and demonstrations, we also like to attend pretty much as participants. We get to talk to producers that are interested in things other than irrigation, and once again, get to network with them and really maybe spark some questions and inspire them to think about things with water that they might not have thought of previously. Additionally, it allows us to learn some of the topics. We may be experts in water, but this doesn't necessarily make us experts in every variety or topic. So just learning about the people and topics in the area really helps us to diversify and make a better impact. Next slide, please.
So when we talk about water use efficiency, there are mainly two focus on our work. The first one is irrigation scheduling, helping people to determine when and how much to irrigate to conserve those resources. The second one is, well, you can have a really good scheduling plan, but if your delivery system, if your irrigation system is not working as expected, then you are going to have problems. Therefore, both of them need to work together. So we have been increasing our efforts on conducted on-farm uniformity testings. And we do this by placing catch cans on the field and let the irrigation run over. And then afterwards, we are going to collect the volume and we can determine many things. The first one is if it's uniform. The second one, are there any major leaks, any missed sprinklers, any irrigation design that might be causing troubles. So far between last fall and this spring, we have conducted 6 center pivots, and the results were actually pretty interesting. So 100% of the systems require corrections to individual sections, and also 50% needed a complete sprinkler package replacement. And for these, we do a before and after the sprinkler package replacement, so we can determine how much of the water savings we had. But more information is going to come this post-harvest season, as we still need to collect the after data because we got some problems on the spring. A lot of storms that flip center pivots, so a lot of irrigation dealerships were focused mainly on repairing those first rather than the sprinkler package. And also, not only center pivots were tested, also drip systems were sampled in this year. So one of the very useful things that we do is we send the testing report. In this testing report, we ask the operator, what is the location, what are the different irrigation system information, what is the system length, how many towers, if there's an end gun, or what is the sprinkler type that we can go and track down what is the sprinkler type, and if there is like any coincidence on a lot of those types, well, we can correlate them. Also, we present the results at the end, the average application. In this case, we suggested to apply 0.6 of an inch as the recommended methodology by the ASABE methods. So we got an average application of about 0.5 of an inch. So we fall short, and that means a system uniformity coefficient of 63%. And to be honest, this is the worst uniformity testing that I have seen. It was a field really, really long, and that will have a lot of problems. So many times I say you can manage what you can measure. So this gives you what is the condition of the center pivot, and in this case was poor, and a lot of sprinkler design needs to be done and replacement, and also corrections to some sections. As you can see on the red boxes, there were areas that were over applying almost twice as the suggested application. And on the last two towers, there were a major under irrigation too. Next slide, please. We understand that these uniformity testings are really important, so we want more hands on the field doing this. So we have been focusing on doing trainings as well. So we conducted 5 uniformity trainings and joined forward with local conservation districts, but they are also open to the public. And we want to bring these people to get hands-on the field and do everything since the beginning to the end, so they can do it on the MIP verifications later or some other trainings. It's like train the trainer as well. There are 5 locations in which we have been doing this ones, and approximately 35 trainings were participated in these events. We don't focus always, well, also on center pivot uniformity and drip uniformity, but also backflow prevention and communication and some of the best management practices. Next slide, please.
One of the metrics we track is direct contacts. A direct contact is essentially when a producer asks us a one-on-one question. In total, this led to 45 farm visits in 7 different counties. I actually had one more yesterday that was quite interesting and saved the producer quite a bit of water. So those are always exciting to report on. Additionally, we also have consultations. It's essentially the same as direct contact. It's just in a virtual format, and we had 38 of those this year. Next slide, please. We're always interested in doing research and development type projects. As you can see, it's once again a very wide range of things that we've worked on. Everything from working on the MSU irrigation app to new drip lines and different technologies that we're interested in exploring. But the main point of all of this research is to give producers some hard data, something we can point to and really say, here's what it's going to do for your farm, or here's the impact we've seen. 2 examples of this are the KBS linear irrigation system. This was installed this year and should give us a very long-term opportunity to conduct projects and experiments on a single field each year, which we can very tightly manage. It's going to give us a lot of control, allowing us to really pick apart different irrigation management practices and hopefully idealize things and sort out some issues. As an example of a much shorter term project, in the lower picture, you can see the rain gauge comparison demonstration. We get a lot of questions on, what should I be using for a rain gauge? A lot of systems are managed, and a lot of producers use rain gauges to manage their irrigation solely. So if those rain gauges are off so much as 10%, that's a huge impact we can make simply by using the best equipment possible. We're currently still collecting data on this, and hopefully we'll publish a short bulletin or fact sheet on it soon, kind of just demonstrating that for a few more dollars, you can get a much better system to help you manage your irrigation. Next slide, please.
So to address the knowledge gap on different irrigation and water use efficiency topics, we have developed different resources and materials that they are available online on our website, so feel free to check them out. And so far, we have published 15 articles on the MSU extension use, and this goes from why is evapotranspiration and why it's important in irrigation to rain gauges are one of the best low-cost tools for saving water, and this comes from results on our internal irrigation research. So it's good to see that some of these data have been published. Also, some of the things that they are very important this year, as you may know, some of the areas in Michigan that is under drought. So recognizing water stress and critical growth stages in field crops was really important and useful for the irrigators. Also, it is important to note that some of these articles were picked up by Morning Eclipse and Michigan Farm News. So we have reached approximately 6,000 people from these publications. There are other materials such as fact sheets that we have spending a lot of time as well, and how to irrigate according to our scheduling tools. So we list them and how to use all these tools on recently published turning gallons into inches. It shows how to convert the inches from the irrigation scheduling tools results into the drip irrigation system for specialty crop production. Sorry. So we have reached approximately 28,000 people because some of them were also published on paper copies and newsletters. So that increased our audience. I recently published bulletin on soybean irrigation management, where we show them what is your water requirements by growth stage, also some of the agronomical requirements and practices, and irrigation scheduling tools specifically for soybeans. There are more crop irrigation management bulletins coming next year, like corn, apple, blueberry. So stay tuned for those ones as well. Next slide, please. A lot of times in extension is meeting people where they are at and making things easier for them. So we developed the weekly crop water use updates in 2024. So these run from May to September. And basically, these updates contains really important information on what is going on our irrigation world, and what is the crop use or evapotranspiration for different field crops like corn, soybeans, and also we include winter wheat when it's time. And we selected 3 regions: Constantine, Entrecon, and Hart. So we pulled data from EnviroWeather, and then we converted into crop evapotranspiration by using a crop coefficient that would tell us how much water is used by growth stage. These updates are published on the Southwest Michigan Field Crops Update weekly, and also they are posted on our irrigation website on their weekly crop water use. Next slide, please. So as I said before, I was born in Latin America, therefore Spanish is my first language, and obviously the language I'm more comfortable speaking to. So that gives me an opportunity to increase the audience. And some of the work I have been doing is to translating some of the fact sheets, like the irrigation scheduling tools fact sheets. And also with the MSU Extension Educator in Southwest Michigan, the field crop, we included a WhatsApp group where we send basically news and also some of the tips and tricks on the irrigation and also agricultural production. And these groups allows for Spanish speakers to learn. In this case, I sent about EnviroWeather and how it's really useful for a better production. We have an app developed by the MSU irrigation team on campus, and it's now in Spanish. So part of my efforts were just to check if it was grammatically correct and if it actually made sense for irrigators. Next slides, please.
One of the things we've been working on recently is to develop a water use digest. This is essentially a monthly send out of kind of the hot topics and things we've been working on. A good example of this, we're getting ready to send out a lot of the resources on winterization and wrapping up the year. If you'd like to join this list or listserv, I should say. Scan the QR code or follow the link. It's currently over 1,500 subscribers, and we'd love to have more. So please share this link with anyone that you think would have interest or use the information. Next slide, please. So we've done a lot of work, but there's obviously a lot more to do. Water is a very precious resource with a lot of different aspects of how we use it. One of our first steps going forward is to finalize the water use needs assessment. We're just now wrapping up the 2025 data, and hopefully when we present this to the water use consultative committee, we can kind of isolate the gaps and get a better sense of the direction we need to go. We always want to continue doing research. As I said before, it really gives us some ground to stand on and some hard data to point to when producers ask questions. We're particularly interested in looking into more seed corn irrigation management, as well as things like thermal imaging for irrigation uniformity and different types of sprinklers. We're preparing the events for next year currently. We want to continue hosting the West Central Irrigation Day and Summer Irrigation Workshops. We don't have dates for those yet, but those should be coming soon. Right around the corner, we do have the Michiana Irrigation Association annual meeting that comes up on December 12th. And GLEXPO, or Great Lakes Expo, hosted at the DeVos Center. We are going to host an irrigation session on the 10th of December in the afternoon. We'd be glad if you would show up or have interest. I believe it's also possible to access by Zoom, but don't quote me on that. We're working on that as we speak. Moving forward, we are interested in providing some kind of a certification, or at least generating a kind of list for those who we've trained for uniformity and chemigation practices. We feel we've done a really good job this year. However, moving forward, there are some strategic locations we want to target to kind of maximize the attendance and really get those techniques down and get a better audience. We always want to continue working with our partners. It doesn't get much easier than showing up to a meeting for a dealership that they're already hosting, bringing in stakeholders and irrigators that are already in the field, people who are really connected, and just talking to them, networking, showing them things we've been working on. It generates a lot of interest and really is one of the easiest ways for us to reach new groups of people. Next slide, please. Thank you. This is a mandatory slide that I have to show as part of Michigan State University Extension. It's our "And Justice for All" slide, and it simply states that we serve all and have open programming to all. Next slide, please. With that, here's our contact information. If you have any questions, want to know about upcoming events or anything, please reach out to us. We're always available by email, or you can call our number and leave a message, or if we're in the office, we'll answer. If you have any questions now and we have time, we'd be glad to answer them. Thanks for having us.
Thank you, Angie, and thank you, Brendan. We probably have time for one or two questions at least. So go ahead.
So a good presentation. It looks like you're doing a good job of reaching out to irrigators and gathering good information. The question I have is that you had generated concerns that irrigators had. My question is, what is their commitment to that level of concern? Is it something that they're observing in their own operation and they're correct, or something that's kind of a more widespread thing? And if it is something that they want to correct, are they willing to, and do you have information that you can give them that helps them, or do you need to gather more information to be able to address some of those concerns?
Yeah, thanks for asking. I guess there are different levels of concern on water issues, for example, and some of them, well, the first one was increasing water use efficiency, and that's basically what the needs assessment is talking about. So that's one is easy to follow up and to kind of gather how are we going to tackle that concerning, right? However, on different agricultural issues, water quantity was also the highest level of concern, and we kind of tied together on our responses and how are we going to approach them. I don't know if that answers your question. And
So you're working on trying to address those other concerns, is that? That's what you're doing, trying to find, so the efficiency, that was a good example of what can you have. But on the other ones, you're still trying to gather information that would be helpful to them?
yes, absolutely. There are other ones that expanding the use of irrigation that we have been doing a lot of work on that. It is important to know, well, to understand that water use efficiency and irrigation, we work as a team, and therefore our resources can be more than how to explain this. I guess, yes, like on the team, we are the irrigation team, but also there are more educators that work on other topics, so therefore we can partner together. That's what I mean.
Thank you. Maybe one more question for somebody that was really chomping at the bit.
I have a quick one.
Go ahead.
Brendan and Angie, thank you very much for the presentation. This was really cool information. If there are groups like conservation districts, county farm bureaus, other local groups who want to put on a field day or a training and have some of this information presented, can they reach out to you?
Absolutely. We encourage anyone to reach out if they want us to come in and speak about this or put on a training. We do ask that there's some advance to that request, preferably a couple weeks advance. That way we can prepare and try to reach as many people as possible. But the more the merrier. We want to make sure we're reaching as many as we can and trying to get the information delivered to everybody.
Perfect, thanks.
I would like to highlight just a couple of things in here too. So I think Angie's going to be able to share her original slides. So it does look like these slides got compressed when they got moved to the template. And so some of the graphs actually are really good. They just didn't show up well here. So I think you guys having the original ones will help and answer some of the questions that Dave had earlier that were really good questions. I don't know who's in charge of slides and who has the button, but if you could go back to slide 34. So I just want to put this in perspective. So early in the presentation, Angie and Brendan talked about being on farms and having one-on-one conversations and the growers' preference for how they're communicated. These guys have done a fantastic job building a relationship around trust. So farmers can generally be non-trustworthy when people start talking about irrigation and kind of practices that they're doing on their farm, because they're not sure like what's the end goal but these guys have been able to build relationships with these folks and open up conversations. And this slide, I think 6 center pivots with them being tested, with 50% of them needing a sprinkler package. So there was an earlier slide that Angie was talking about, or I think it was Brendan, the number of acres that they impacted, as well as the economic value to that. Oh, thanks for whoever's touching the slides. One more, maybe? No, one more. I think we passed it. Keep going. Nope. Go one more. Ooh. Right here. Yay. So thank you. So you're looking between 6,000 acres on one event and over 7,000 on another. And then looking at the savings in the earnings, those are big dollar amounts, right? And so they had 3 pivots they said out of the 6 that needed to have a sprinkler package replacement. The average cost for a sprinkler package replacement for just one 1,300-foot pivot is between $6,000 and $8,000. So if 3 of them needed it, and let's just go with the average of 7,000, that's $21,000 that farmers would have had to pay to bring their system up to snuff and what it needs to be. But being able to show them this energy savings and the water savings that go with it really is pertinent to making them like, okay, this investment is worth it. And not only are we getting a water savings, but it's that energy savings that goes along with it that helps to build that trust and that communication and like the willingness for them to be able to do it because it's not inexpensive. So I know we talked a lot back in 2020 about putting this recommendation together, and some people really felt that energy water nexus didn't belong in here since we aren't focusing on energy here. It's really just water. But those 2 pieces coming together are going to continue to be integral to be able to get folks to make the investment in those package upgrades because they're expensive. So kudos to these 2 for building those relationships and helping to make that happen. And I think Hannah Arnett is giving a presentation or a discussion today because there's the next step. So adding on to what Angie and Brendan are doing with the mobile unit that will, I think, help kind of push their numbers and levels up of the changes that they're able to do is coming soon. So it's very exciting stuff. Thanks you guys for a great presentation. I appreciate it.
Yes, thank you. And Kelly, if you can indeed, I was going to mention that follow up with Melissa with a full presentation and she'll help get it out to the whole group.
I can send it. I've got it.
Perfect.
Thanks you guys.
Thank you. Right, we're going to switch gears quickly into some other committees. I'll start with the data committee. Not much to formally report. There hasn't been a meeting recently, but there's been behind the scenes work just addressing some of the other projects or initiatives that are part of it. A little bit of a slowdown right the minute we're level shutdown, so some of them are going to participate in planning meetings. Engaged for a little bit longer until figuring out a way forward. And we have to reach out to a few folks that are leading up those to set up, ask about their availability and status so that we can set up the next meeting. That's it. Any questions on the data committee? Perfect. All right, Dave Hamilton.
Okay. So with the models committee, the Michigan Hydrologic Framework is progressing. We plan to give you a detailed report next meeting in December. What we had months ago, just give you a chance to ask the people working on the development the questions they have. So it'll be a good update in December. The transitional probability modeling project is essentially complete. So Eagle is reviewing the draft report. But when they're done with that, the models committee will then have a chance to take a look at it. And our goal is to look at, decide what, if anything, should we recommend be done with that information, that technology. And so that's what we'll be digging into it for, and we'll come back if we've had a chance to review it with recommendations for the council. Similarly, the compiling the key aquifer properties, the transmissivity and the storage coefficient that I believe is close to being completed. We'll do the same thing. The finals committee will dig into that and develop any recommendations that we think the council should make. So those are coming up. The downstream accounting, as I understand it, is getting close to finalizing the work plan. So hopefully that's getting close to actually starting to do some work. So we'll look forward to that. And then you may remember in the June meeting, Todd raised the question concerning a modeling project that he did and submitted to the department. The models committee had 2 meetings on those. The issues were raised that, so the modeling was actually done like 3 years ago. It The location is in Dickinson Creek, which is in Kalamazoo Vale Creek area. Was concerned about how long it took the department to review the model, and the department disagreed with a number of things that he did. For example, parameters and how they're using the model. And the department made what he considered to be significant changes to the model. So he didn't feel like the department worked well with him in making these changes. He wanted to, he wants to work through the council department. So the council asked us, the models committee, to go through that. And we did. We had 2 meetings where we dug into it in quite a bit of detail, getting details of what was done in each modeling effort. And we did not dig into it to try to decide, okay, this is right here, or that was right there. We did not try to do that. We didn't think that was our charge. Our charge is mostly to look at the process and what could be done better. So that's what we were trying to do. And our conclusions, I guess, personally, there was agreement across the board that took way too long. Review this model. That shouldn't happen again. There were significant disagreements on interpreting the hydrogeologic information and the modeling itself. So again, we focused on the process, and not surprisingly, our recommendation is better communication, more frequent communication. And let me spell that out a little bit more clearly. So the conceptual model is critical in developing a model, and that's where you look at the information you have and defining the hydrogeology and how it fits together in your concepts of how this aquifer system works. So that needs to be done before any modeling can be done. So that's the first step. And it's really a critical step. And it's important that there's communication between a model developer and the environment at that stage, because you can avoid a lot of problems if you've got agreement on the conceptual model. Now, as you go through the modeling process, that actually can help clarify what's being used in the conceptual model. Sometimes you find out that concept just doesn't work, and that method just doesn't work out, and you need something else. And so as you're working through the modeling, it'd be good to have communication going on between the department and the modeler, just to understand what's going on with that, especially if there are changes that need to be made to the conceptual model based on modeling results. And so we think that there should be frequent communication, and verbal communication is actually useful and during this stage of work, rather than write memos, write draft reports, and write memos back. Is just kind of cleaner if you've got the trust level where people can talk and say, hey, I tried this and it didn't work. I'm thinking of this, making some changes here. What do you think about it? I guess exchange between the modelers on that, and I think that would be very helpful. Eagle is working on improving guidance for what they're looking for in a pre-application meeting. And some of this would probably be applicable to this situation. So Eagle's agreed to share a draft of that with the models committee so we can take a look at it. But I think that by doing that, they're also saying that they want to for communication and looking for ways to do that. So that's kind of where we turn out. Again, it's not a big surprise, but I think by going through it, we're able to identify some key places in the modeling effort that are critical for communication to occur.
Dave, could I just make a couple quick comments on that? And I think you gave a really good summary of kind of the lots and lots of stuff that got talked about at those 2 meetings. And one of the things I'm hoping folks are able to pick up from this discussion is number one, that there's a lot of confusion and frustration about how decision making is done. You know, like, did we select data that was submitted from monitoring wells on site, or did we use book values or estimated values or model values, or data that was collected from different locations, and why, as well as modeling parameters. Here's why we selected the parameters to put into this model that we did, and the thought process behind it. That seemed to be a lot of the discussion was each side not understanding the thought process behind why people selected both the data and the modern modeling parameters that they did. And so that to me is one of the biggest things that we can work on collaboratively is exactly as you said, how do we get better at communicating about this? And also making sure that everyone's clear, you know, even if the final decision you disagree on, if everybody can agree from the way that people got there, I think that ends up with a better result for everybody, both the regulated community and the staff at Eagle.
That's good clarification. Thank you. And I think, again, it points out to you, these kind of details, what we're talking about, should be part of that insurance central model discussion. What data are you basing things on? Why do you think this way was based on? So that discussion happening early is going to help a lot. And then as the model goes along, those changes need to be made for the discussion. And additional data that may be gathered as you go along, as well as the model results, can help further the understanding, which helps discussing management.
I don't want to presuppose what's going to be in the materials that Eagle's coming up with in terms of here's how we want to approach pre-application meetings and the whole process. But if this is something that the models committee is going to plan on bringing forward recommendations on, here's what we would like to see in that process, that might be helpful to create some direction and some guidance for Eagle staff too, instead of just telling them, go forth and make this better. Fix it, figure it out.
Dave, one thing that strikes me is in my world, we have to do a reliability study on a pipe to model the system, and we model it. We hire an engineer to model it, and then we submit it to the state. They don't remodel it. They review the assumptions that were made, and then they approve it. They may ask questions if things don't look right, but they don't have their own model. So the thing just has different part of the same world. It just strikes me that we've got these dueling professionals that are both very capable, but they're like not working. They're from different sides. So I don't know how we correct that, but it seems like it shouldn't be. I mean, it'd be better, money better spent if we could collaborate and hire one professional and agree on that. That's what I guess what closed pipe network model. Yeah, and so it's a different the nature of that modeling is applied. It is, and there's a lot less ambiguity, and you've got a certain pipe and diameter. So I get that, and there are differences, but I'm just trying to look at it from 20,000, just like, can't we collaborate on one consultant that we can all agree on? So anyway, just wanted to make that point.
And I think that, the last somebody lost, they submit models to the department versus notice that good. And then drop that. I don't really have to say these changes in this makes it look better, and then talk about it more. But the collaboration is really good.
Todd's got his hand up.
Yeah, go ahead, Todd.
Yeah, thanks for calling on me there. I just have a couple comments to make because we were talking a lot about process. We weren't talking about, as Dave said, relitigating it, and we weren't talking about, okay, who's at fault for this or that, but I think very generally some of the frustrations that we experienced was, we were communicating up front. We did 3 work plans initially, but this was a 5-year-long process for an SSR. And so that was hard. That was hard on the clients. That was hard on us. I think there's still some disagreement over some of the data. What's valid and what's not valid. We collected data for 3 years on temperature loggers at 4 sites, 12 connectivity tests. We did 70 discharge measurements. And at the end of the day, the data that was used was a wetland specialist looking at vegetation and a USGS gauge, and then walking the stream bed. That's a lot of work, that's been cited and done by others. So we were like, okay, why? How do we explain this? And I think outside of the data part of it there, I think a lot of the frustration, at least that I heard in the modeling committee, was, we answer a lot of questions when we submit a model, and we have to submit a written report to go with it and justify the data and show the data and the analysis and cite where all this stuff comes from. Dave said we had 2 meetings. The first meeting was presenting both models. The second meeting was supposed to be about questions. And a number of questions were submitted, but they were never answered in the second meeting. And that led to a lot of frustration because there's some good questions there that, you know, if we submitted a model, we would be asked, okay, why did you do this? And is this justified? And so the communication part of it is a big deal. I think it's complicated for sure. It's technical for sure, but it's worth the time to spend talking to each other and figuring out why we do certain things in the models. You know, the silver lining was, even with two wildly different models, we both got to a very similar result at the end of the day. And so that was a good thing that we did. So we can talk about the models, but at the end of the day, we actually came to pretty similar numbers. But communication is not just about the model. It's not just about the data. You know, some of the frustrations that we've got to clean up, if we don't understand what we're doing with field work, maybe we ought to do that together, you know, and we try to do that on a day. And we sent a team up, and we never were able to connect. We never got a hold of Eagle who was out there on that day. That was really frustrating for my guys to drive up there and then to not be able to meet with them. After we started the day with a phone call, let's go, let's meet. So there's other communication parts that go with that. You know, I sit on the Michiana Irrigation Association. The farmers at that meeting are still talking about last year's presentation because it was announced there that the model was being denied. And it was the first we'd heard of it. So there's a professionalism too that's got to go back and forth, you know, as we work with each other. So not throwing anybody under the bus, but process, we got to do a much better job of talking to each other about what we know, what we don't know, and how do we get on the same page. You know, at the end of the day, for my client, it was really tough. You know, they sat in a meeting where Eagle said Todd did some field work and his guys did it wrong, but never said what it was or what we did wrong. Well, that's confusing to the client because they're already trusting us. So it doesn't do well when we do stuff like that without talking to each other about it first. These things are difficult, but they're not insurmountable by any stretch of the imagination. We ought to be able to have those kind of conversations. So the communication is not just about the conceptual model or the data. It's about getting on the same page and understanding the way we think and being able to explain that to each other. We ought to be able to get on the same page, for sure. You know, and at the end of the day, for my client, it was a 5-year-long process, and they ended up, at the end of all of that work, ended up just trading capacity. They gave up 2 12-inch irrigation wells and traded that capacity for 2 different ones. You know, and I look at it and I'm like, that's $200,000 just in assets on the irrigation wells. That's not a small amount of money for growers to just move around and shuffle. We've got a bar that we ought to be able to meet, you know, all of us. So I think rather than pigeonhole communications and say, yeah, we can write a checklist for that, or we can write a template to do that. I think there's a level there of being professional peer to peer too, that we really need to work hard on, where we do it as professionals and it's not personal, and it's okay to disagree. But as long as we walk away at the end of the day understanding each other rather than frustrated with each other, because there's not these discussions going on. I don't want to be thrown under the bus any more than anybody else wants to be thrown under the bus, you know, by me. That's not what I'm after. We just want to do a good job of data collection, a good job of modeling. We're not looking for a specific answer. We're looking for something that makes sense, something that we can defend, something that we could go into a mediation and not be at each other's throats and say, look, okay, this is what we have. This is what we talked about. It's either that, we say often around here, we're either going to be cooperative or we're going to be combative. I would much rather be cooperative about it, even if that means having a little bit more difficult discussions. So to me, when I look back on it, that's the hardest thing. And that's some of the hardest things that my clients were struggling with was they could not understand where some of this stuff was coming from and why we were going over some of this stuff. So we just got to do a better job of being professionals all around, I think.
Thank you, Todd. Sarah?
Just wanted to add that this experience was a very similar experience that we had when I was in the remediation and redevelopment division. And it was DEQ at the time. And so one of the solutions that we had in order to manage this, because I've been a consultant and I've been a regulator. I hate the letter writing back and forth. Don't make me write you another letter. It's awful. So we have the TAPS teams, the technical and program support teams. Those teams are designed to bring our Eagle DEQ people together who have expertise in a particular topic. So it was based on a different topic. I even had a models committee, and I think they're still in existence, together, and we would hold meetings where we would invite the consultant, the regulated party, to come in and present. They would talk about their project and what's going on. There was an open dialogue and exchange of ideas and questions. You could ask them right there. And while communication isn't always perfect between all parties, it was what you're describing. And so, maybe approaching it with that model that's been already used in the department might be beneficial, because we all come together, we are sitting in the same room, we talk through the project, Katie's participated, Cindy's participated, and there's a lot more mutual respect and understanding where we're coming.
So Sarah, we actually did.
Committee meetings are great for this stuff, but this is still a committee report out of the whole, so I don't want to keep going too far. I see Jill has a hand up. Before we go to Jill, Dave, question for you. I get that the main conclusion is communications. Did the committee, though, identify any themes technically or paradigms where, like, staff seem or tend to approach this problem with data standards or parameterization, spatial scope boundaries? Like, were there technical signals where the staff seemed to be in a different place, paradigm, operational and technical issues than outside consultants?
There were differences that were fairly substantial, especially on the stream. And we did not dig in to try to sort out, which is right or not. But it's pretty clear to me that there should have been a lot more discussion on that and what the observations were, what measurements were, and how it was being pulled together. Because that was huge. It's to what was done. But there was more to it than what Todd indicated. Departments looking at how they're putting things together. And, Todd did a lot of work that department looked at and didn't fully either appreciate or fully understand. And that's where, again, communication would have been pretty odd. It would have been real nice to have been, for them to have been out there at the same time, talk about it. So there are a lot of missed opportunities here, which I think is kind of the main lesson. And there's various ways to do that. You can have just just kind of call up and develop a relationship, just talk back and forth on it, which I think is a really nice way to do it. I'm not sure if the thing you're talking about just how formal that is or how that works and what participates.
Levels. It can be very informal, it can be formal.
So, I don't know whether that's a good idea or not, but I do think that the department recognizes that they need to do a better job of communicating with people. And so, that's kind of my takeaway. And, department really should speak to how they think they should move forward to improve this.
Okay, thanks. I asked I know every field's different. In the technical field, and I have blank departments, right? There are different ways that people come about that in engineering. And there's like technical signatures of very different paradigms between certain practitioners, people who come about review through a different lens. And And so some of it's always comes down to communications, right? But sometimes there's just reoccurring technical approach differences. And I was just wondering here, like, because communication intensive efforts are always good, but they're time intensive. I was just hoping that maybe there was like maybe somewhat of an uncovering of like, oh, this seems to be coming up, like there's these choices on this side, that those are viewed this way on this side, that we could maybe address some of the technical stuff to limit the amount that needs the intensive communication kind of systematically going forward.
I mean, one thing I think should look at is so that permeability test and applying those that, you know, where you do that, how you do that can be very, very, there can be a lot of questions raised about all that's being done and how much work should actually be put into that. What is the value added for all the effort that goes into that? I think is a fair question. You know, the example I said, based on those field tests, there was interpretation that, hey, there's no water coming through the stream. There was indication that water was coming through to the stream. And so, you know, the question is how much and where, and there was information about that as well. But again, that's where digging into it and coming to some resolution where we're helping.
Both Todd and Jill have their hands up.
Right. I'm going to take a couple more questions, but we are running long. Quite a few agenda items. So if you do me the favor, stick to about a minute or two with each one of these, and it'll be good. If not, may start having people off. Jill Van Dyke is first up.
Can you guys hear me? I have your sound is a little odd on my end, so can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, all right. No, I just wanted to say that, first of all, I agree with Todd in that one of the most important things in dealing with these groundwater models is communication. And I know, just personally speaking, in my consulting time in the consulting industry, we always did that. Kind of on the other end of it, of course, we were, you know, talking about what we did and then talking to the regulators. And I know that as I've been here at Eagle, we have usually tried to do that. And I've had some very good experiences with consultants on models and getting, you know, together in the office if necessary and talking about stuff and trading ideas and keeping kind of an open mind. And sometimes I think it tends to get difficult if there are certain concepts that, you know, need to be followed for whatever reason. And so you get kind of a pushback and you get to a point where you're not going forward with a model review. So I think from my standpoint, I've always had good luck in talking about what bothers me about a model. I mean, I'll tell somebody something and hopefully we get together and say why and what can we do about it and all that. And that's great. So I guess I know we've done it in the past. I've done it personally in most of my stuff. Sometimes there's issues for one reason or another. And I think we just have to focus a little bit more again on, yeah, we got to get together and really talk about this. We tend to send letters, I think, that says, well, this is what we see in the model and blah, blah, blah. And then normally we should get together and talk about, well, why do you see that? And why do you see that? Or what can we do to confirm this or whatever, you know, so that it's not really expensive. It's not taking time. That's always the hard part about it. But you want to try to get together and do that. So I think that kind of basically agrees with what Todd is wanting to do, is to not find out stuff later, be able to talk about it, but you have to also have an open mind. I mean, if the consultant's doing all this hard work and, you know, he's put all this stuff or she has put all this stuff into it, it's hard to have somebody say, well, we see this. And so I don't think it should be necessarily, well, you did it wrong, but, you know, it could be, well, we see it differently. And can we come to a reasonable conclusion, that type of stuff. And I think at least that's what Todd's talking about, hopefully, because, you know, that's the way you try to get through some of these differences and find out what's going on, and see what really makes a difference to it. So I just, you know, I don't want to go on and on and on, but I don't like the idea that Eagle is perceived as not talking about things, not working with the consultants and whatever, because we do. you know, and there's just different situations that come up where that doesn't occur for one reason, like I said, or another. So I think we all have to try to focus on redoing that or doing it that way, like Todd was mentioning. So that's all. I don't want to belabor the point, but I agree that we need conversation and we need communication. And, you know, I think Eagle does try to do that, but we can always try better.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you. Todd, go ahead.
Yeah, I promise I'll keep it to a minute, so hold on. First of all, it's Eagle's job to make the call. It's not mine. I fully admit that. I'm like fully okay with that. I'm not trying to take that position. We're totally cool with that. That's the way it's set up. That's the world we live in. We did have 2 in-person meetings on the model to present our stuff and to put our concerns out and let Eagle ask us their concerns. We did 4 additional data dumps and probably did over a dozen different phone calls. So that wasn't, I mean, we were kind of working through that, waiting for the review. What happened though was we were all of a sudden presented with an alternative model and said, this is the one that we're using, and it's been denied. We didn't have any conversations about why did you change this? Why did you change that? And there was so many changes. We ended up with 2 different models. And so the conversation was only halfway through on this project. So I have 2, I think, pretty solid recommendations. Number 1, pick up the phone and call. If there's a question or you want to know why someone does something, we ought to be burning up the phone lines rather than burning up, you know, Microsoft Outlook or whatever you use. It's a lot easier to just deal with it on the phone quickly. The second one is, it's not a bad idea to have an appeals process. Bring a couple more people into it, kind of what Sarah was suggesting as well, right? Is that it's a little bit broader of an environment. On this case, the modelers were Jill, myself, and Lena, and that was it. And, you know, there was other stuff going on, but I think it would be helpful sometimes to bring in some outside folks with some opinions. I consulted multiple other consultants in my process of building the model, and it was incredibly helpful. I think that would be good to implement in this as well. So an appeals process might be something that, you know, it's the next step of, hey, let's bring a couple additional heads into this and see where we can go. So, you know, for me, the communication is big. Pick up the phone, and then maybe we need some additional people looking at this stuff as well.
Appreciate that. The appeals thing is good. We'll stash that. I was gonna make a joke to Dave Hamilton that it sounds like the environmental permit review. But
I think this is a good example, but it was a bad
execution of something that is.
It was easy to find out.
Yeah, no, sometimes that function's needed. Kelly.
Yeah, I guess I'll just hopefully maybe wrap this conversation up. I can appreciate everybody's sides, and I really like what Sarah Pearson had said, you know, getting together and having conversations, some sort of an appeals process. I have gotten some frustration from other technical experts about, like, they feel there's a lack of transparency. And so if there is a way to be able to come together and bring all of those technical experts together, along with the Eagle technical experts, I really feel that it will help to build that trust and transparency component that we're missing. So there's a different consultant who said they really felt like it in some of these meetings, like when we're 8 and you ask a question to your mom and she's like, because I said so. I think it's, if we can explain the why behind it, right? Like, models, everybody comes at it from a different perspective. And if there's a possibility of getting together and, like, each person explaining the why and having a group of experts there to kind of work through that. Again, Eagle still has final say, and that's how it should be as the regulatory agency. But I think kind of showing that there is the ability to come together and talk through these really difficult models will go a long way in that trust factor that we're going to build with the folks who are using these systems. So
Very good. Dave, you sat back after that last thing that you mentioned as though that was the end of your models committee report.
I hope so. Yes.
All right.
I don't want to talk about the same.
No, I didn't know if you had other things you wanted to talk about still. So good.
No, I did the other stuff first because I could
Slept through.
drop more attention on
No, good stuff. Thank you. But let's switch to the implementation. And I don't see Doug, so.
Yep, nope, Doug is, he cannot be in two places at once, as most of us cannot. So we did meet with the committee last week, and you guys have been hearing a lot today about updates and things that have been going on and work that's been happening. I just kind of wanted to capture a few of those to highlight. We are still keeping track of that gigantic, ugly spreadsheet that we are regularly updating with the progress on all the projects that have been recommended from 2020, 2022, 2024, obviously, which doesn't have any work on it yet because we have not gotten the budget money for it yet. So looking through the state budget that was just issued, squeaking in under the wire 5 days late, does not have the money in it that we have asked for appropriation on. However, we've still got interested legislators who want to sponsor a supplemental. So I would say hope it's not dead for this one yet, but we'll keep working on it. So anyway, just wanted to highlight quickly some progress that's happening on some past recommendations. The Advancing Water Conservation and Efficiency Project that we heard about earlier, they're anticipating a final report in October. We heard from our 2 extension educator folks earlier today, and they've been doing some fantastic work. The work on the stream flow gauges and groundwater monitoring, those are actually being evaluated through a program that I think is going to be part of our Eagle update here in a few minutes. The Hydrologic Enhancement for Michigan HEMI project, which for everybody who's like a motor gearhead, it's not that kind of HEMI. We saw it just a couple weeks ago. The water withdrawal assessment tool interface updates launched in September. I went in and made myself an account just to see how easy or hard it would be. It was totally easy. Thank you, guys. And I'm hearing good reports from the countryside so far, although it is harvest. So there's a lot of people who are not going to get a hold of me until November to say, here's all the things that I hate, but I haven't heard any yet. And we've also got a number of projects that are almost completed. Dave mentioned most of these, I think. So compiling key aquifer properties, the 3D glacial mapping in Cass and Calhoun counties, the well logic database digitalization, and the water user committee manual are almost done. So again, we've got the full report available in that giant ugly spreadsheet. I am happy to share it with anybody who wants it. It's just kind of unwieldy. And because it's very informal and deals with works that are still in process, we haven't put it on the Water Use Advisory Council website, but anybody who wants it, it's not a secret document. I'm happy to share it. And unless there's any questions, that's our report.
Any questions?
Get us back on track.
As you mentioned, we'll be back after the budget stuff. Trying to get past the 2-year time delay, but looks like they may be on the 2-year time delay. All right, don't give up. So perfect. Next should be Eagle updates, and I don't know if that's near happening. I'm gonna have to step away momentarily, so do you mind facilitating us? Thank you.
All right. Okay. Well, good afternoon, everyone. This is the program update for Eagle's Water Use Program. Brief outline. So I'll begin by providing 2025 calendar year 2025 year-to-date metrics for the program. Hannah and/or Megan are going to provide a quick update on the updated water withdrawal assessment tool. And Sydney's going to provide updates on the HEMI project that Laura just gave a quick preview on. And then finally, I'm going to update you on some recent personnel actions within Eagle. So these are calendar year January through October 1st, 2025. During that period, we had a total of 196 automatic registrations through the water withdrawal assessment tool. In addition, another 125 site-specific review registrations. Those break down 15 in Zone A, 27 Zone B, 53 Zone C, 6 were still pending review as of October 1st. 9 were registered as a result of replacing existing baseline capacity, and another 15 were retracted by the applicant. 30 of those SSR determinations were beyond the 10 business day deadline. And during this period, we did not have any voluntary site-specific review requests. There's a pie chart for those of you who are more visual. So the large portion, 144 tool authorizations, well, SSR's authorizations rather, 15 retracted by applicant, 6 still pending as of October 1st. Our timeliness, statutory deadline again is 10 business days with no provision for tolling that deadline. The average number of business days from receipt to completing the SSR 9.8 days, and 69% of the SSRs were completed within that 10 business day period. Long-term trends of timeliness, the top is the average number of business days from receipt to completing the SSR over time from 2009 to 2025. Bottom graph is the statutory deadline percent complete within that 10 business days. Other program metrics from January to October 1st. During that period, we had 4 permit applications for Part 327 permits. Those are for new, in general, newer increased large quantity withdrawals over 2 MGD. 3 were issued, 1 is still under review as of that time. Pre-screening reviews, that's a pre-screening review is equivalent to doing an SSR for our Drinking Water and Environmental Health Division. They have their own standards under the Safe Drinking Water Act, but that does includes a requirement that they comply with the Part 327 standards. So Garrett has taken that over from Jill. So essentially, Garrett is doing a site-specific review for drinking water, and then they take that and do their additional evaluations under Safe Drinking Water Act. So during that period, we did a total of 20. 10 resulted in Zone A, 3 Zone B, 2 Zone C, 2 Zone D. 1 was a geology pass authorization recommendation, meaning that the pumped aquifer is not believed to be hydraulically connected to surface water. Another 2 we recommended authorizing is replacement of existing baseline capacity. And for compliance communications during that period, we sent out a total of 34, of which 28 were revised registrations. So if large quantity withdrawal that was registered either through the tool or through an SSR was installed and or operated differently than what was registered, if there's enough stream flow available to authorize the as-built as operated, then we issue an amended registration or revised registration. It's current terminology, and send out a compliance communication with the revised registration as an enclosure. In addition, Hannah sent out another 6, what we call installation verification, which is we're contacting the property owner to find out, did you in fact install the registered withdrawal or not? Now I'm going to turn it over now to Sydney to provide an update on the USGS Hydrologic Enhancement for Michigan, or HEMI update.
So we were originally planning to have Power to Reach give a detailed presentation today with updates from their various task leads. However, Howard's not able to be here. So hopefully at a future meeting, maybe we can give some more detailed updates. But I just wanted to kind of give you guys some high level status updates for where we're at right now. So the major tasks for the HEMI project that we're working on, it's stream gauge network analysis and optimization, a groundwater monitoring hole network analysis and optimization. We're doing ground-based and airborne electromagnetic surveys. And then there's a groundwater modeling component to this project as well. Next slide. So for the stream gauge network analysis and enhancement, we have worked with USGS to install 2 new stream gauges this year. So the links are there on the slide for those 2 new gauges. And then USGS has also installed 3 new temperature sensors, and the links there for those locations are on the slide as well. Additional gauges and then additional temperature sensors are going to also be installed in fiscal year 2026. We were waiting for the passing of the budget, and USGS have kind of an understanding of their staffing level for this upcoming year. So more information to come on that in the future. And then USGS is also continuing to work on assessing how well our stream gauge network represents the streams in Michigan. So we do expect them to produce a report as part of the project that highlights data gaps within the stream gauge network that we can use to improve that moving forward. So that's one of the objects that their task lead is working on too. Next slide. So for the groundwater monitoring well network and analysis, we're working with USGS in coordination with the Michigan Geological Survey to evaluate the groundwater monitoring well network that Eagle's working on developing. We're looking to identify data gaps in that network. So we have locations that we have selected to include in our network. They're pre-existing USGS wells that are currently inactive. So we're working with them to bring those into our network. So using that list, a list of wells that we are also working on searching for in the field that are, again, pre-existing USGS wells. We just have not verified their location. We have in total about 200 wells that we're looking to add to the network. And then the Michigan Geological Survey has been installing wells as part of some of the work that they've been doing. So using all 3 of those data sets, looking for gaps where we could install additional monitoring wells to build out the network further. And then right now, the contracting for that, we were hoping to have that done here by the end of the month. And so USGS, when they are able to return to work, they'll continue the contracting process. So I imagine the drilling at this point will occur in 2026.
Cindy, before you go on, just to double check, since you're talking about looking for existing wells, these are wells that I'm assuming data's not being collected from because people don't know where they are.
Not currently, so they're pre-existing USGS wells. So historically, they may have data. So back from 1970s, 1980s, there's data that USGS reports that's available for these monitoring wells. We just have not had an Eagle staff person out in the field that's actually verified, like, yes, this well is still present to this day. Like, we can see it hasn't been plugged or removed. And so we are working to verify that some of those wells still exist. Okay. And then working with USGS to transfer ownership of them to Eagle so that then we can begin monitoring them on a somewhat regular basis, whether that's quarterly or annually. That'll kind of be dependent on the well moving forward.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. Next slide. So the other component are some geophysical surveys as part of the project. So there's 2 pieces to this. There's the ground-based geophysical surveys that USGS is going to be conducting. There's about 17 sites, I want to say, on the southwestern side of Michigan. The surveys were supposed to be conducted the week of October 8th, and obviously that did not move forward as planned. And so we will be rescheduling that work once USGS can return to work. And the data from these ground-based surveys is going to be used to help prepare for the larger airborne electromagnetic survey that we're going to be doing in 2026. So for the airborne electromagnetic survey, this map here shows you the region that we're going to cover. So it's a large portion of southwestern Michigan. On the map there, it's those lines, kind of that pink area highlighted in the bottom corner there of Michigan. So I want to say it covers up to about 10 counties. And so we are working with USGS to finalize the scope of work for this survey. These are going to use 1-mile flight lines with the helicopter. We're working on currently finalizing the orientation of those flight lines. It'll be perpendicular to most of the geologic features in the region. And then there will be areas within that pink box that are shown that don't get flown over because they're too urbanized. We can't fly over the buildings or power lines, things like that. So there'll be kind of gaps here and there for where they're not able to fly. And then that contracting process for that, again, they'll be able to pick that back up when they return to work. So as of right now, our plan was to start this, probably the helicopter flights next spring. And we're expecting it to take about 4 months to complete with the amount of land that we're covering. That may be delayed a little bit with the contracting process at this point, but still should still happen in 2026.
Once you guys have the flight lines planned, is that information that you're able to share so that we can get some advance notice out to the countryside and say, hey, this isn't the black helicopters, please don't shoot at these.
Yes.
You know, whatever other information is required.
Yes, for sure. That was something that I've got an outreach slide on here as a starting point, but it was something that at a future meeting, you know, we'd like to talk about with the council in terms of how to collaborate with outreach and ways that you guys think would be beneficial. We do intend to hold kind of a standalone webinar for county officials, other local officials, and organizations to make sure that folks are aware, reaching out to some of the universities. And then we've got some web pages that I'll show you guys the links for too that we've prepared. So yeah, lots of outreach that we're planning and want to make sure everybody's aware of what's going to happen. Yeah. I think they fly, I want to say it's a couple hundred feet above ground surface.
250.
Slow. That's what using helicopters.
Yes, yeah. So the helicopter, I don't have a picture in this presentation, but the helicopter carries a big hoop on it, and that hoop has the geophysical sensors attached to it, and that hoop flies at about, you know, a couple hundred feet above ground surface. So yeah, and we've got videos on the website that we put together. USGS has a webpage too, images of that helicopter, and then some of that kind of information on the way it'll be flown. Any other questions? Yeah.
And they can't fly over urban areas because of the safety, because they're flying so low, or is it something about the
Yeah, because they're flying so low, that's part of it, and then the other part of it is the interference from some of the electromagnetics with like the power lines, that it can disrupt the signal that they receive back, and so it's kind of a combination of both the height of having the buildings and people and things like that around, and then
the signal they're sending up?
No. It's very safe. It's like USGS compared it for me when I was asking them questions about it to like the level of, you know, basically like what you would get kind of standing next to a toaster. So it's very minimal. You know, I know MGS has been helping do one as well. So I don't know, Sarah, if you've got any other information from having done one.
Yeah, well, the USGS is flying the whole UP, so we've been working with them. But the electromagnetics get too much interference from power lines and things like that, where the signal to get through. So it's really not beneficial to use it. There's also, if you go online and I just Googled USGS AEM Michigan, and they have something about this project already. It's posted September 15th of 2025. So it says, and it has what the survey's for, when and where will it happen. Already, some of that public information is already out there and available.
Frank Adewagishik, are you on the line?
Yes, I am.
Okay. You may already be aware of this, but USGS is also their tribal liaisons working with our outreach staff and tribal staff. We've started the tribal consultation process with some of the tribes. So find out their concerns and whether or not any tribal lands can be flown over or avoid those areas altogether.
Correct. Yeah, the scope of work right now is written so that USGS will not fly over any of the tribal lands without written permission from the respective tribe. So we are working with USGS's tribal liaisons and Eagle's tribal liaisons for that process.
And how have you contacted the tribes? Do you know?
There was a letter that was sent out to tribal leadership. I want to say it was earlier this summer, offering kind of explaining the process and offering an opportunity to meet with Eagle and USGS to discuss the AEM survey in detail.
There's been at least one meeting with the Gun Lake Band.
Yes, correct. And we held a webinar for tribal leadership and their environmental staff to participate, to hear about the AEM survey and the larger HEMI project.
Was that well attended?
Yeah, I think so. I think we had good representation there, and we've gotten some. I know USGS has had multiple conversations with a couple of different tribes across the area where the AEM survey is going to take place.
Okay, because I have a United Tribes of Michigan meeting day after tomorrow, where I'll have most of the tribes in one room. And during my report, I have a several minute annual report. The agenda is pretty full right now, but I could put a reminder in there. If you want to send me, email me a letter or something about this issue, I could just, put it back on the front burner. Since that the thing started, there have been 2 changeovers in leadership at tribes. So there may be some new leadership that isn't aware of this.
Okay, thank you for that. Yes, I will send you an email with the communication that was sent out earlier this summer.
And if you send that to me, I'm going to be putting a packet together overnight tonight and try to have it out first thing in the morning or early morning. So sort of short notice, but if I could get that, that would be helpful.
Yeah, that's no problem. I'll get it to you by the end of the day today.
Thank you.
Yep. Next slide. So the other component is the groundwater modeling. So this is just kind of gotten started, but just wanted to share this figure here from USGS. So the red outline there is showing you the model boundary that's going to be used. So again, it covers a large number of counties there in southwestern Michigan and encompasses most of the area that'll be included in the AEM survey. So USGS is also beginning to work on this. So when they provide their more detailed update at a future meeting, hopefully there'll be more to share at that time. Next slide. And then lastly, just wanted to initially kind of talk about some outreach. So we have developed a number of project websites. So one of which Sarah just mentioned earlier. So USGS has a HEMI page that's posted online. They also have a specific page for the Airborne Electromagnetic Survey. So that survey page, once we go to actually begin the survey, we intend to have kind of a live tracker. So Lena likes to call it the Santa tracker. So it kind of it's resembles that you've got. You'll be able to see kind of the day, the next day, what USGS will be flying over, and then what they had flown over the day before. So it's not 100% live, but in your real time, you'll be able to kind of see where USGS is at. And then we also have Eagle. We have a similar page for the larger HEMI project that's been posted now. So those are all available there. And then, like I mentioned, we're working on a webinar and other outreach opportunities for later this year before that survey takes place in the spring. That's it for me.
Good. Good news to share personnel-wise with you. So the first new staff person I want to introduce to you is our new Senior Geologist 12 in the Water Use Assessment Unit, Claire Rose, who comes to us from formerly with U.S. Geological Survey in Mississippi. Anything else you want to share with the group, Claire?
If you had any questions, whatever, how it relates to anything that I'm going to be doing now in this new water assessment team. So feel free to send me a message, or if you want to know more about what I have done before, you can search on YouTube. We've created some videos about some of the work we did on the Mississippi River and some of the work that we did with in cooperation with Brazil. They were trying to bring up to speed the Amazon River on similar ways to measure discharge and water quality, to work on that river. But unfortunately, it's a really different scenario because of the levees on the Mississippi River and the lack of levees on the Amazon River. You have a much longer trip and it's a whole different logistical set. But I'm so happy to be here at Eagle and I'd love to talk to you after the meeting. Do you have time? Thank you for letting me join in.
Welcome.
Okay, and then also in the back there by the windows is our new Groundwater and Geological Services Section Secretary, Janelle Black. And the other hiring note, we completed interviews for the other vacant geologist 9 through 11 position in my unit. So Adam just approved the hiring recommendation memo. So now I'm waiting for authorization from Civil Service to make a contingent hiring offer. So making progress there. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to the tag team of Hannah and Megan to talk about. Oh, Pat, go ahead.
Sorry, two very quick questions. I noticed in your SSR stuff, you had a category for withdrawn registrations. What exactly are those? Are those ones where they just neglected to go into the SSR process?
So those are gonna be the ones that were retracted by the applicant.
Yep.
Either because they entered it in twice, or they decided they didn't need the registration. Or maybe if we kind of talked to them and decided that it wasn't gonna pass, they might have withdrawn it themselves. That's what's in the form of documentation.
Thank you. It was just a new term I wasn't familiar with. The other question I have is on your Hemi at the stream gauge. We've located, just being in the field travels that we're doing, new USGS gauges on Flower Creek, north of Muskegon, south of Silver Lake, Butterfield Creek, and 2 of them on the south branch of the Kalamazoo. Do we have a total number of new stream gauges that have gone in?
So for the Hemi project specifically, we've had 2 stream gauges installed. However, and Mike might be able to help me out with this. I know USGS, I think they installed, what was it, Mike, 7 or 8 gauges? 8. Okay.
Okay, thank you. So those are 2 separate buckets, is what you're saying?
Yes, correct. Yep. But yeah, so Mike, I don't know if you could hear Mike in the background. Mike saying that there were 8 additional gauges installed for the water use assessment unit in the last year. And 2 of those gauges that you mentioned are on our list. So we could share that list if you need that.
No, I was just curious where it was at, just because we had stumbled across those doing our field work this year. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, any other online questions before we move on? Okay.
As you guys know, the water withdrawal assessment tool went out. It was live. Go ahead and hit the next button. Watch it on the screen. Whoa, it launched. It launched on the 23rd. We did launch, unfortunately, some minor bugs that we have kind of come across. Some people have kind of flagged them for us. If you guys see any, please keep flagging those for us. Let us know. That's great. We do have our kind of second release to fix some of those little bugs going out later this week, hopefully Thursday, but it might get pushed to Friday just because the chain of command and approvals is longer than you would think. But if you guys do, again, have any of those bugs, please reach out to me so we can get them documented. If you guys didn't see it, we had a webinar on that Monday. There's a link to that in the slide right here. If you have any questions, feel free to check that out or just give me a call. I'd love to help anyone out. Any questions? We are planning a second release that's going to take in those other 2 stream flow depletion models, the semi-confined and the layer aquifers, kind of mid-January, tentative mid-January. So look forward to that. That's all we got.
All right.
Okay, if there are no other questions or comments, then back to Pat.
Kelly Turner.
Hey, I was wondering, Hannah, are you gonna give an update on the group that's working on the mobile irrigation unit?
Yeah, so we had a kickoff meeting last week, but we are waiting on the Direction assistant, the RA for that, she will start in her new role November 1st. So after that, we'll kind of like really get the ball rolling. But just kind of had a quick kickoff to make sure we had all the right people at the table.
Sure, go ahead. Just verifying, I think this came up in a previous one, but the semi-confined and the layered, that's really for like an applicant to sort of test whether the acquisition of additional data could really significantly change their outcome of their registration, right? You can't change the actual one.
They'll already have to have that data to actually run the tool, right? That's kind of like the catch-22 here.
It's sort of like providing an alternative model.
I know I'm gonna have to go into SSR, I think because of the data that I've collected, that it's gonna need, you know, parameters described by one of these two models. So I can just go ahead and enter that right away instead of wasting time with
I thought
putting it into
mentioned
on
what
90
you
and
put in it.
going, of course it does, yeah.
It's a way of launching an SSR with your, which makes it more efficient. So it does go with the automatic.
But it's not actually the.
No.
Thank you.
I mean, it is the lot now. Think of it as the lot now. The lot will do all of it.
Because it's that, but it's in the compact, or, I mean, the lot has to be the undefined.
Any other questions for Jim or any other Eagle staff? All right. Moving on to some future dates. The next meeting is going to be December 9th. And we did lay out the schedule for next year, so please put those on your calendar, and get those reserved. We put some asterisks on the ones August going forward, and you know, we struggle a little bit with how quickly to do the monthly, but we've got the next report due already. Blanket is here, and we continue to struggle with trying to get on the legislature's radar. And so we talked a lot about potentially trying to move it up. And so what we kind of compromised on is we'd really like to hear from committee chairs. If you have anything that's going to require funding, let us know sooner than later so that we can work together to make sure that it gets in the report and it's front and center. So just please communicate with us, and then we'll make sure to get you scheduled before the group so that we get the full, cooperation and having everybody have a chance to look at the recommendation.
On that note, models may anticipate three recommendations are coming forward.
Perfect.
So we've got the transitional probability model, and then the update and that for parameters, and then the squared. And so, and we will bring those all back to the council with our recommendations.
Perfect. So we should have, a number of meetings here, depending on how quickly it takes you to get them lined up. So that sounds good. If anybody else has anything in the queue, let us know. I do appreciate, Dave, your work on trying to help with the funding, unlock funding puzzle, and everybody else who's told their weight on that. It's still not over with. At least we have state funded, so we'll take baby steps, right? Anything else before we?
Question for the exec committee, is the target date for the 2026 report still December 2026, or has that been moved up? Or,
I don't know that we made a final decision on that. We had a robust discussion.
I heard there was robust discussion, but I haven't been.
Should we start adding in monthly meetings earlier in the year? We kind of held firm now, wanting to hear back from our committee chairs on kind of what's the potential outcome status of, not just are we going to bring forward recommendations, but in particular, do we have funding needs? Right. So as you start to, even before you have come up with a budget, if you think, oh, we're going to need some money to get this done, let us know so that we can be thinking about that schedule, and hopefully everyone will give us some grace in that if we need to start adding in meetings earlier so that we can meet an earlier timeline once we also hear back. I guess we're going to have folks from the Eagle leadership in December who are going to give us a budget update. and maybe you could let them know ahead of time. I plan on picking their brains on the timing for process of when Eagle goes to the legislature with budgetary recommendations so that we can kind of figure out what does that mean for the timing of our report, and how can we better align it with when the legislators are thinking about Eagle budget stuff.
So hopefully that was clear as mud.
Here's mine. Meaning, these are the dates we've got set so far. We're hoping to get the report done earlier than December. We may need to get it done earlier than December, so we may add a couple of meetings in, like if we have to have one in July or, anything like that. We'll let folks know with as much notice as possible.
To steal a line from data collection, you need further development.
I think our hunch will firm things and get better. Our hunch is that the executive budget is well underway by June, so we're not going to move it up that much, likely to have it ready to hand to the governor for her budget while it's being formed. But we already know that we have last year's, so we got to get that, if it doesn't happen, supplemental into the next governor. The governor in the past has released their finals in December, so our thought was at least tonight to see if we can get our stuff materially done by November. It's probably at least enough to maybe get a last minute modification, but that should still leave us plenty of time for legislative budget allocation. So you'll see that that's why December 8th is labeled as tentative. So we'll for right now that we try to finish up in November, earlier. But we will keep at trying to get our dates pulled in more accurately.
So there's mine.
Well, we have to be a little flexible, and I hope everybody appreciates that. But we're willing to work harder if there's more need there. But we'll just kind of have to see how it all lines up. All right, we did have those noted too for the forum meetings because we expect to have to take action. So if you could get in person, that'd be great, or send your alternate. All right, to close out, we'll open it up for comments on any agenda item, either from those in present or online. Any comments? Once, twice. All right, seeing none, we will adjourn. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Good. Thanks, everybody. If you haven't had a chance to introduce yourself to Claire, please take advantage of that opportunity. If you tell her who you are and which group you represent, that would be helpful. And thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Thank you.
You know, I'm gonna say. You can look at mine.